Hello, this is Gregg Rapp. I'm in Palm Springs, California today, where I live. I live and work out of Palm Springs, but I've been stuck here because of all the viral problems out there, of course. But I've been doing menu engineering for 38 years. And I started when I was running a restaurant up in Pullman, Washington. It was called Alex's, and I was in college and I had to do a menu for the restaurant, and I knew we were going to sell $1 million off this piece of paper, but I didn't know how to do a menu. So I started looking at where I could find the tools of menu engineering, and I started pulling things from the newspaper industry or magazines. I look at different marketing tools, and then I pull them over to the menu side, and you're going to see a number of those today. But before we really get started, let me walk you through some of the things that using new menus that, as the government asks us for them to be clean, or people using their own computers or tablets are easier to clean than paper menus. So the paper menu is now going to be the dinosaur. It's going to go away, the big menu cover, leather cover. And so one of the easiest ways to do it is with a chalkboard. Here in Palm Springs, we have a restaurant called La Valerice, and they are the best restaurant, believe me, in Palm Springs. And they use a chalkboard, and they wheel the chalkboard over to the table. This is the finest dining restaurant in the city, and they just pull it over to the table and they let you order. And then when they run out of something, they just wipe it off, and the next day they'll fill in what they've got. And it's a great way to do a menu. Now, I've seen other chalkboards up in Ithaca, New York. They use a lot of chalkboards, and I've seen a lot of cool ways where they've filled the walls up. They just have chalkboard walls, and they fill it up, and they put new drinks in there, and they really have a lot of fun with the chalkboard. And that's just kind of caught on up there in the little corner. But chalkboard's probably the easiest way to go. Then we've got disposable menus. Well, when I put these together, gosh, they cost about 20 cents a piece. And so you're looking at about, maybe $15,000 to $20,000 a year. And disposable menus are good if you can send them home with the people, and they use them and they take them home, and it's a good idea, and it's got all your information on it. Here I've got a newspaper style menu that has even more information on it. So you're telling the stories. You can build into a newspaper all kinds of cool things and information about your restaurant, where your ingredients are from. You can do a story on your different farmers that are selling to you, all kinds of cool things, and tell the story about, I want you to tell stories about where your recipes are from and whose recipe it is. And the more you do this, the more you're elevating and valuing the food higher. So this is a great way of doing it. But again, it's going to cost you about $15,000, $20,000 a year to send a menu out the door with everybody. Oh yeah, Bouchon, they do this, and they have a nice menu, and you take it home and put it in your scrapbook, and it's a great way of doing the handout menu. And but it does take paper, and we want to be conscious of that, of course, these days. QR codes. This is an easy way of doing menus these days. People put a QR code out there, and they get the menu on their phone. The only problem with this is it reduces it down to a 3 or 4 inch screen. And I like to do a larger screen. I want to give more impact to the menu, but I know people are enjoying doing this, and this is one way of pulling your menu together and putting it on everybody's screen. Tablet menus. If you go to tablet menus, be careful that you use a tablet company that doesn't have the dumb little pictures out here. They have the little 2, 4, 6, 12 pictures of the items, or some of them have, 9 pictures of the items, and then you go through and you pick from the pictures. When you do that with this type of menu, tablet. The problem with this is it only gives you, it minimizes all your items. So you now go down, I call this an automat menu because it minimizes all your items into the same space, and you can't upsell or downsell or do the tools of menu engineering when everything looks the same. And you're also taking your brand out of your menu. I want you to build your brand into the menu. So I don't like the tablet menus that just show you the little pictures. I do like, there's a iMenu Tech is out there, and they let you do a menu, and then the menu builds the products, and you can look at the screen just like a regular menu, and then you can dive in and start clicking on items, and it will go to the item, and it gives you a lot more room. It's imenutech.com. Is how you get there. But my point here is I want you to, here you're building your brand, and it's helping you give you space to build your brand, where the other little menu, iPad, they minimize everything down and demote, they take your brand away. So if you do that, go with something like this where you can build a menu and then highlight the food, tell the story about the food, talk about the ingredients, talk about the farmers, you know, give as much information as you can, because the more you give on it, the more value you're going to bring to your food. Looking at your menu and how many people are going to order off of it, it's pretty amazing on how many people a year come in and work off your menu, and your graphics. I say do a new graphics program every 3 years. If you're an independent restaurant, chain restaurants do their new graphic programs probably every 2 years. But when you start looking at how many people look at your menu, it's pretty amazing when you see that 150,000 or 2 million people come in and look at your menu and order off of it. It makes it a pretty powerful tool. So you want to take your steps and do this menu the right way. What I do when I work on a menu is I use little index cards. You can get them at any Staples, or and I use the white cards for white index cards for menu items that are entrees, and then I use the colored index cards for the different categories, like purple cards I use for desserts, blue cards I use for drinks without alcohol, or red cards I use with drinks with alcohol. I have a whole little system, but when you put a card together, you put the price and then the food cost, and then you subtract it out so you get your profit. So I want to know what the profit is on each item. And then I look at the monthly sales mix, or it could be last year's sales mix, or it could be the last 6 months. It doesn't matter, as long as its sales mix is the same amount of time for this menu that we're looking at and we're going to study. And so then I can take my little index cards, and I'm going to first, I'm going to take a little felt tip pen and color the card for each section. So it coordinates my card. So as I put my menu together, I've got all my seafood items with a little blue line on a white card, or pasta with a red on a white card, or meat with the black. So you get it that I'm going to start looking at putting these in categories as we lay the menu out. And then we can lay the menu out from most profitable to least profitable. This is like taking all the menu cards and laying them out on the table from most profitable to least profitable. Here you've got a crab cakes pops to the top. You make $19.94 off the crab cakes. Well, that's the item that we typically want to sell. Let's start from the top of the list. The next item is the veal chop. We can see that we only sold 208 of those, but I'm going to start laying the cards out from most profitable to the least profitable. if you look at the bottom of this list, you've got the lamb, the rack of lamb. It's the most expensive item on the list because it's got a high food cost, $16.10, but it only brings us $12.90. So you see what I'm doing here is I'm laying out the list, so I want to see what items I want to sell and items I don't want to spend as much time selling. On here, I can then look at how many people last month came into the restaurant. 2,869 people came into the restaurant last month and ordered off this menu. And so that way I can start looking at how many desserts, what's the number that I compare to that 2,800 for desserts, and I can start looking at how I can track the menu accordingly. So I'm going to look at the add-on items all separately. All these items, they all bring what I call Velcro, they're Velcro items. They all bring new profit to the menu. Anything on this list is good. The mashed potatoes, even though it's at the bottom of the list, it still brings $4.66 to that entree. You see, it's adding on money to that entree. So we make the money from the entree, and then we start building the add-on profitability with the spinach salad. Brings us $7.21, or the escargot brings us $6.82. So you see what I'm doing is I'm starting to take my cards, lay them out according to profitability, and then starting to look at what the profit is per item as we're selling it on the menu. The desserts list on this example, I show you that it's got the chocolate cake at the top of the list, brings us $7.48 because we make the chocolate cake in-house. When we make it in-house, we're putting our own labor into it. If you look at the bottom of the list, the tiramisu, on this menu, we happen to buy the tiramisu from the vendor, so it brings us $5.30 because it cost us $1.70. So my point here is I want you to, does this tell us, do we want to make our own desserts or buy our desserts? That's a different study. This is, once we've got the menu laid out and we know that we're going to make our own chocolate cake or we're going to buy the tiramisu, I'm going to lay the menu out and sell that chocolate cake over the tiramisu. You understand that we take the list, we lay the cards out, we're going to take the items and we're going to graph them and chart them. And you can do this on Excel. We're going to chart them out for profitability. We're going to go out for profitability and up for popularity. So an item that is high in profit and high in popularity, we call a star. These are the best items. These are the items we want to sell the most of. When I have the crab cakes happen to be a star on that restaurant that I showed you. So we want to extend that item. I want to tell the chef, hey, can you come up with an Asian crab cake or a Southwest crab cake? Or when you start building that item, it starts building that onto the menu and makes it more powerful. Stars are our favorite items. They're the items that we want to find and we want to sell them. They're not price sensitive. They typically, we can take them up in price and people will still order them. It's just a characteristic of the item. So stars are our favorite items. They're high in profitability, high in popularity. We have superstars, falling stars, rising stars. Superstar is a margarita in a Mexican restaurant in the drink engineering. You come in, you sit down, you order a margarita. You don't ask the price. It's just an automatic order. Or a steak in a steakhouse. These are our stars, and we want to treat them very well in our restaurant. Put them on the menu, and we're going to highlight them. I'm going to show you in our next program how we can highlight these items and build your menu around those. Puzzles are items that are high in profit, but low in sales. Typically, steak and a lobster is a good example of this. We don't sell that many, but keep it on the menu and try and figure out how to sell more of them. Now, if lobsters are dying in the tank, that's another issue. And puzzles usually have a high food cost on them. Puzzles, you want to try and figure out how to sell more of them. Now, one tool that we have for a puzzle is I can take it down in price and it will go up in sales. If I take the steak and lobster from 50 bucks down to 45 bucks, we'll sell more of them. It's an item that's one of the characteristics of this item is it will sell more when we take the price down because it's typically people are looking for a good value on these items that are normally higher priced. That one, it's not my favorite tool is taking prices down, but that one works here with the puzzles. The plow horses are items that are high in sales, but low in profit. This is a soup and salad special, $4.95 special. It pulls people in. It's a plow horse. It pulls people in, but it's not what we want to sell typically. So that soup and salad special for $4.95 pulls people in, but don't mess with it. When you start messing with it, they'll go and get their $4.95 special somewhere down the street, and that person will take all their little friends with them and go down the street. So when it comes to plow horses, be careful with them, but treat them well and careful with them. Draft beer is a plow horse on your bar engineering. People know your draft beer drinkers know your draft beer price and then the draft beer price of all the other restaurants and bars in your neighborhood in a 2-mile radius. So when you take your draft beer up in price, they'll typically go where they can get a cheaper beer. Plow horse in the pizza industry is a pepperoni pizza, one-topping pizza. Mom or dad can compare that price to any other pizza place in the neighborhood. So be careful with your plow horses because they are pulling people in. And then dogs, I don't like calling them dogs because I like dogs. I got my dog right here chewing on a new bone. I'd rather call them cats, but it's in the industry now to call them dogs. So let's call them dogs. They're low in profitability, low in popularity, and we typically want to get them off the menu because people that are buying those aren't buying the stars or puzzles. And dogs typically compete with the puzzle and star. So when we have a dog on the menu and it doesn't make as much money, why don't you think about putting an extra dollar on it so it makes that extra dollar and will make us a little more money. And if you have to keep that dog on the menu, and many times people have a reason that they want to keep their dog on the menu because it's the liver and onions. And my grandmother started the restaurant, and we can't take that liver and onions off because grandma, it was the item that started the restaurant or some crazy story. So for joining me in part 1, where we've got to the engineering of the menu. Part 2, we're going to go over all the tools that I use when I go out and I work with clients on their menus. Please take a look at my website, is listed here. Also, please send me a LinkedIn contact. I've got, 25,000 contacts now on LinkedIn, and that's what I use. Or just give me a call. Love to talk on the phone. So thanks for coming in on part 1, and we'll start part 2 soon. Thanks so much. Bye.